Hello, everybody. Welcome to Style Esports. I'm your host, Shinkari. I'm joined by Trutabaga, and here we are in our feature match of this evening. We've got the Kamikaze Penguins taking on Bidoof, the HM Masters themselves, here to take on the Rift and ready to duke it out in another exciting match here in Season 17 of Style Esports. We've already gone through our draft wall here, so folks are just going to be going through their picks as they did. We had some last minute stuff that we need to get to on the showing a little bit behind the curtain here, but we're got this game underway. We're excited to see these two teams duke it out. True, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. And we did have to get through all that, some small things and
Mm-hmm.
declare to finalize the stream. But we are here, and the teams were able to get through their draft. That's why you see them flying through it so fast. On blue side, I believe that is the Kamikaze Penguins.
Yep.
On red side, as you said, the HM Masters Bidoof. Uh, the draft has gone by so fast that there's a bit,
Yeah.
there's not too much to analyze.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that happened in pro draft, so they were not really able to see the moves themselves.
Yeah.
That being said, we can kind of take a look at these compositions holistically. Bidoof going for something of a bit of like a strong bruisery front line, supplemented by having an Oriana. Jin has kind of spiked up in play rate a bit
Mm-hmm.
recently, at least as far as solo queue has gone. Um, I think that's partially just because Jin feels a bit better now that certain things are getting weaker. On the other side of it, obviously you're still seeing tank junglers as well, just
Yeah.
because of those jungle changes still having relevance just for another 24 hours or less than that because the patch is incoming tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But both teams opting in for solid scaling. Although I'm hesitant to call it for Bidoof mainly
Mm-hmm.
because Jin Oriana, yes, they can have damage in their own right, but when you're playing into things that can kind of pressure them, like a Sejuani, like a Rakan, and you have
Yeah.
a late game monster like Asol, it's hard to navigate those like late mid game to late game situations.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, it is an interesting position to be in for sure. I definitely like the Jin coming in here, just because the amount of raw damage he can dish out to a team that isn't really going to build armor. I feel like if you
Hmm.
see a set build, like very rarely do you see like full armor items. Like there's really only one dedicated tank for the side of Kamikaze Penguins. Um and they it's really just Sejuani because Rakan might build some armor and Set might build some armor. He's mostly just tanky just because of his raw HP, right? And I feel like Jin just kind of preys on champions like that, right? Like if you've got like not a lot of armor, those auto attacks, especially the fourth shot from Jin, is gonna be doing a heck of a lot of damage.
Yeah, and to also speak about these team strengths, right?
Yeah.
I definitely think that Kamikaze Penguins have something going for them in regards to that scaling, but on the other side, I think I also want to talk about neutral fights, and I think Bidoof has a lot of potential control in those situations. You have Oriana, you have Maokai, like these two very large like team fight AoE abilities that can either shut you out or create enough threat to make it difficult to enter into, let's say, a jungle entrance or walk in around Baron or Dragon Pit, and then you factor in Aatrox additionally. And I think everyone's seen it honestly with like Aatrox gets this like a Q3 off and half of the back line disappears. So I think in those corridor fights, these compressed zones, Bidoof's comp can look really, really good because it's really hard for Kamikaze Penguins to do anything else other than throw themselves in and hope for the best. Because in general, their combat plan, the way they want fights to uh, go is really, really straightforward, right? Set
Yeah.
runs at someone. Sejuani throws out ultimate. Rakan runs at someone. Yes, they do have engaged tools, but they are all highly telegraphed ones. And if you
Hmm.
can play around corridors and confined spaces, it works out really well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a composition that, like you said, very telegraphed, but I don't think that's much of a downside here. I mean, like Sejuani's ultimate, the people have often argued that it's like, hey, this is a rather point and click ultimate sometimes. That like
Yeah.
it was good enough for a very long time, like that whole time of Sejuani Varus of just like, hey, we found one person, now they're dead. right?
Yeah.
And you know, I think Sejuani is going to open up that kind of possibility for their team as well, because it synergizes a lot with a lot of other ultimates, as well as even some CC from Rakan. I think this is going to be a very interesting game. We are going to take just a quick break as we finish up that spectator delay. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Okay. Jen didn't buy items.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Style Esports. My name is Shinkari. I'm joined by Trutabaga. Here we are on the Rift of game number 1 here. We've got we've got these two teams ready to go. Bidoof is on the red side. We've got Kamikaze Penguins on the blue, and we're ready to get this game underway. We're not sure if Jin is ready to get this game underway. Jin currently has 0 items. So either this is a 5-head play, or we might have some trouble. We might have some problems.
Well, I think, you know, simplest answer is probably the right one, and Tutorial Castor might have just forgotten to buy. Oh, looks like you noticed it,
Yep.
and then back off
Yeah, there it
finally.
goes. Yep,
Now,
there it
the
goes.
real tragic thing would be if someone came and disrupted this back. That would have been
Yeah.
really annoying. Mansberg eating a solid chunk this early. Gosh. Yeah, already having to pop a potion does not feel great.
Yep.
But hey, that's the power of Orianna having Phase Rush, especially because it's not nerfed until like 8 hours from now. So,
Yeah, and it's like super easy to activate for Orianna even at this stage of the game too, right? Like,
yeah.
I think, and I might be wrong here. I think like the Q does damage twice or something. I might be wrong, but still, it's like incredibly easy to activate. And plus, like if she auto attacks you multiple times, like that does increasing damage. Like,
Yeah.
still just a weird spot to be in for sure.
Yeah, it's very awkward. I understand why Mansberg walked up there. Ooh, early level 2 in the bot lane.
Yeah, Mini Pole taking a lot of damage from Zyniel here. Important to note that Zyniel is running a first strike, so between the two of us, I think we're just assuming that this is going to be the ultimate build where Caitlyn is going to be going all in on that kind of lethality stuff and going for more damage on her ultimate that she is going to be doing raw just attack damage. So maybe a Duskblade of Drakthar, maybe an Eclipse, who knows.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhat reasonable given the fact that when you think about what these two teams, what these champions are going to be building, Caitlyn should be okay to build lethality. Like, it won't feel great in the moment people start building armor, but you know, I think we discussed this a little bit, like who on these teams is really going to be stacking armor, and it's probably just Archangel and Retafox, but Retafox also doesn't even have Aftershock, so inherently just has less defensive stats naturally. So.
And not to mention, like, Maokai's a lot more so recently have been going into Demonic Embrace first, which, again, isn't an armor item, right? That's a lot of HP. That's a decent chunk of damage to make you just a little bit more threatening in the early game, but it's not an armor item. So if we start seeing lethality, it's going to be a lot more bothersome, I'll say, for the folks for either team because both of these AD carries could very feasibly go into lethality builds.
Yeah. Like, I think it's definitely somewhat reasonable for both of them to want to do that. You can kind of see, though, something that we were discussing with Caitlyn going for this first strike build is, in a lot of bot lanes, that's totally fine. That's totally okay. But when you have something that can poke you out like a Jhin...
Wait a minute, hold on.
Oh,
Mini Pole's in some trouble here. First blood for the Caitlyn already, and Totola Castor already looking to fight a little bit more, but has to get out of there. Maokai was in the vicinity, but wasn't able to help out. Zyniel and ZZ Dog doing a very, very good job in that bot lane there.
Yeah, and that's almost what I was getting at, which is Jhin Karma can play from range against a Caitlyn and potentially neutralize that range advantage that she has. Like, definitely neutralize the first strike.
Yeah.
But looks like the action's not quite over yet.
Yeah, that's a twisted advance onto an immediate cleanse from Zyniel here. Good root from a trap. Oh no. I think Zyniel might be looking for a headshot right now, but they can't quite find it. Totor Lacastor flashes.
There he is.
Oh my gosh, it's so incredibly close. And then the shield from Karma is going to get them out of there as well. Looking for a sneaky shot with the W as well from downtown. So incredibly close, but 2 flashes spent by both AD carries in that bot lane there. Not to mention Ghost popped as well from Totor Lacaster. So no summoner spells from either of the AD carries here, but there's still flash and heal available for Rakan.
Yeah, and that's actually one other thing that we didn't talk about, Rakan opting in to take heal. Typically, you see a bit more of an aggressive combat summoner taken by the Rakan, but because Zyniel took cleanse, which I'm somewhat surprised by, because in terms of like potential long range CC, the thing that you're most concerned about is Jin's root, and then you have Maokai. But if Maokai's on top of you, how survivable is the situation? But yeah, Rakan opted in for heal, so it's much more defensive in nature, potentially reflecting that Caitlyn might want to go for a different sort of build here. Oh, wait, Retafox up in top lane.
Big Rev up in the top lane's got that bar full. They have popped the ultimate as well. Retafox is up here. Berserker is in a whole lot of trouble. Cut off by that sapling on the other side. Going to try to turn this into a 1-for-1 as best they can, but they don't have that big W punch anymore. So Big Rev going to be able to pick up a kill up in the top lane. That's one going over to the Aatrox in this 1v1.
Yeah, but Aatrox is a champion where it's like you give an inch and they take a mile, right? You can already
Yep.
see that the Aatrox is ahead. Mid lane,
Oh,
there's a fight though.
we have a shockwave there. Immediately trying to do the drive-by here for Aatrox. Going to get a decent chunk of damage in response. Not going to be able to find that kill on either side here, so a couple of washes. But important to know that, what's that, Mansferg? Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't get a chance to try to understand what half the names in Style Esports are. I just kind of have to assume. And yeah,
Yeah.
Mansferg. That's right.
Yeah.
Mansferg is fine.
No,
He
it's
still has
just
that ultimate available.
it's just the lesser known cousin of Mansford.
Yeah.
But yeah, in top lane though, that's a bit of a terror situation for Berserker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Aatrox hit 6 first. You already know that Aatrox has a slight XP advantage, especially now that Set has died. And was already up on CS. You can see almost 20 CS up at 7 minutes. And now Hal also has kill gold in his pocket. Like,
Yeah.
Set is not going to have a fun time here.
Yeah, not to mention, like, you already mentioned that there's a slight XP lead. There's 13 CS leads separating these two top laners. So even if it wasn't for that kill, there's still a lot of advantage for Big Rav up in that top lane right now. It's Easy Dog, great
Ooh,
double knock up there. This trap is not going to be able to root anyone, but that's a nice amount of damage right there. Not going to be able to convert it into anything, but Sejuani is waiting in the wings. There's no wards in this river, and they are pushed up. They might be able to find something here. Let's move the camera over there. Yep, that's going to be the Glacial Chasm coming down toward the caster, taking incredibly low. Zyniel's going to be able to find that kill. As here comes Showstopper onto Weak Side Kitten, taking them real low. The slow is going to force them to flash away from that W from Berserker there. But real good job to try to take their advantage somewhere else and get an advantage for the rest of their team. But at the end of the day, that's a 1-for-0 for the Kamikaze Penguins there.
Yeah, it's a good move because Jin's flash still is unavailable, so Archangel can just walk their way down. As you said, just throw out the Glacial Prison. There's really not much that Mini Poulet can do to save Totora the Castor. And yeah, the Jin just dies. You get that advantage. Caitlyn's now 2-0, and you can see working towards what appears to be a Collector, which will do very well into these squishier teams. Really get that Caitlyn going. In mid lane, we saw Berserker kind of being like, okay, well, my lane is not going well, so let's see if I can help out my mid laner. Gets the roam off, does pull the flash out from Weakside Kitten, but the Orianna critically stays alive, and that allows Aatrox to just continue building this lead already out to a 30 CS advantage over Berserker, and that is pretty devastating. Whoa, Mansberg.
Yeah, Mansberg already taking a whole lot of damage. And Jin from downtown gonna help seal the deal for Weak Side Kitten there. As that, yeah, that's some real good teamwork right there. Real good job. It does clear out the map for them as well. They were able to pick up that Rift Herald, which is on Maokai right now. And another good kill for them as well. This is definitely helping out this this Orianna for sure.
Yeah, and like CS in this mid lane is contestable. You can see that Mansberg is strictly at a slight advantage, assuming that the Asol is able to get up all this farm. And yeah, like that's all well and good, but I think we're kind of seeing consistently here that Mansberg isn't doing a lot to respect the Orianna.
And a knock up. There's the Starfall as well. Weakside Kitten taken low, and Mansberg is going to be able to find that kill. Red Fox now looking for the kill, and Toto DeCaster is coming in from the side here. That's going to be the Black Hole, keeping Red Fox in for a little bit longer, but here comes the curtain call. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not going to be able to land that fourth shot, but a good knock up is going to help ZZ Dog pay with the kill into Red Fox. That's going to be the Glacial Prison coming across. Zenial's going to come into this fight as Archangel finds another kill for KP. Mini Polay, nowhere to go. Mansberg is going to be able to find the next kill there for nothing. Huge kill, huge conversion for the blue team here, putting themselves 1.5k gold in the lead.
Yeah, that's such a massive amount of tempo to go to the Kamikaze Penguins, and kind of highlights this need for teams to recognize a situation where you just have to cut your losses. Weakside Kitten is not making it out in that situation ever, right?
Yeah.
The Orianna has no flash. Yes, you have Phase Rush, so your only way for Ori to survive there is for Ori to proc Phase Rush and run out, but because of the quickness, it's really, really difficult to get away in that situation. And like I said, you have to cut your losses. Red Fox can't go in there to Tour like Castor Mini Poulet. They also cannot follow up because now the final result from that is now you're at a 1.7k gold deficit. You've given up a lot of control, a ton of gold. You know, the two carries on the enemy team have bounties. Oh, Mansford though.
Well, Mansford gets out of there because Aurelion Sol is very slippery. But yeah, that was a really close call. Weak side could pop in their ultimate as well. Now see a little bit of a gathering in the mid lane here as Berserker. I don't know if we're going to see a lane swap, but man, Berserker is just not having a good time here.
Yeah, it's definitely not a great time to be had. I disagree a bit with the Merc Treads being built here.
Yeah.
Because what CC, like the CC that you're really reducing is Maokai root, which we've discussed already. If Maokai's on top of you, it's not looking good already. And then Jin and Karma root, which I don't think they should really be throwing onto Set. And Set, you really just want to be the solid frontline for your team.
Yep.
But, you know, it's a choice. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also be worried about the amount of magic damage on the enemy team. Like that's a kind of fair like assessment there. Like, a good early MR item is most often Merc Treads. And, if you are worried about, the damage from Maokai or the damage from Orianna or even Karma at this stage, Karma's base damages are insanely high, which is why she's such a threatening character in these early games, right? Like, you just don't have the magic damage to deal with an empowered Q, but Berserker, I feel like the only person they're mostly going to be interacting with is Maokai and then Orianna, right? In which case, like, how much is that MR really going to help you? Like, I feel like the either like plated steel caps will help you better against the Aatrox, who is really doing numbers on you and will help you against the Jhin later on. But that's why they're playing and I'm casting, right? Like,
well, I mean, like ultimately, even plated steel caps or ninja tabby, whichever you prefer to call them, would still be somewhat useful against Orianna because it reduces damage from the passive. Like the early MR, while it might, offer this placebo effect of feeling nice, if you want early MR, as a frontline champion, you should just be itemizing that towards a full item.
Yeah.
It also looks like they're not committing for a lane swap, which also makes the Merc Treads that much more of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
But there's really not too much more that can be said about it. Merc Treads are great for tenacity, for reducing the duration of that CC. You can have a small debate about how effective they are for early MR. And yeah, it offers you a nice little bit if you don't have much in your inventory, but really there are more stat efficient items for magic resist. Yeah. So the bottom line is that Berserker's not having a good time.
Yeah, Berserker's really not having a good time. And this is kind of a larger conversation about the meta as a whole, because I feel like we have this conversation a lot. It's like, yeah, those Merc Treads are nice, but like, what CC are you reducing? I feel like a lot of the times we have this conversation, I feel like a lot of the CC that you're dealing with is airborne, right? Even look at both teams right here. We got Sejuani, we've got Rakan, right? Like, even Set to a degree has this as well. It's like, hey, like my CC, you will not be affected by your Merc Treads. So you need to find something else. Here we go. We're going in already. White's up. Holy moly. Stars Descent doing so much damage there.
Yeah, I mean, the key CC from both situations kind of missing, though. Grand Entrance to Rakan, getting that slight whiff, and as well as the command Shockwave and being unable to pull in Mansford. But we're kind of hitting a bit of a lull right now. And yeah, the thing is, in spite of these additional kills that Kamikaze Penguins have gotten for themselves, they haven't actually translated that into a larger gold lead. The gold lead has largely stayed the same. I think a lot of it's because of this Aatrox, as well as the Rift Herald getting that first turret. But, gank here bot lane.
Yeah, Zynials might be in some trouble here. ZZ Dong trying to get away, going to use that Grand Entrance as a grand escape. As the fourth shot comes out for Curtain Call, not going to be able to do anything as Archangel up in the top lane looking for Big Rav. Going to be able to find at least a stun here through the dash. Berserker now really going to be able to follow through for their jungler here. So just going to be a little bit of harassment onto the Aatrox here as they kind of dance around on that top lane and kind of the same on those bottom half of the map as well.
Yeah, for the time being, the Rakan and Caitlyn are incredibly hard to get on top of.
That's going to be the Glacial Prison on the weak side kitten. Answer is the Shockwave there as Big Rav comes in. World Breaker has been popped. They're going to be able to get away. Three ultimates spent in the mid lane, but nothing has come of it. Both of the teams are just going to tear away here as Aatrox continues to put a little bit more pressure onto, hey, do I want to take this Rift Herald?
Yeah, Big Rav.
Hold on. That's a Nature's Advance. ZZ Dog might be in some trouble.
Whoa!
Never mind. Zenial getting a big kill for themselves here. They might be able to turn this around. That's another headshot on the mini pole. Look at that damage. Holy moly. They're finally able to stop the Caitlyn, and now ZZ Dog asking once again. That's the grand escape. Going to be able to get them to safety. It's a 1 for 2 at the end of the day. This collector doing dividends right now.
Yeah, it worked out really, really nicely for Zenial. And yeah, I mean, the Caitlyn with the lethality, you can now see completed Youmu's in the inventory, so definitely opting in for that lethality build to just one-shot the squishies, kind of just like what we just saw. Big Rav was able to get the TP off in the bot lane, get that return kill over onto the Caitlyn, but unfortunately couldn't finalize anything else. And honestly, we didn't really talk about this, but Kamikaze Penguins do have a pretty mobile team, at least in a defensive sense. Especially because the Caitlyn does have cleanse available, but Dragon is spawned now. It's going to be a Hex map, which is, I think, one of the more contestable ones, considering how strong that Dragon is and how strong the stacks are. Looks like Bidoof has the inside track, though.
Yeah, they're getting a good start on this already, but it looks like the blue team wants to contest. Set has teleported down, but they need to get into this rift right now. That's going to be the ultimate from Aurelian's all over the wall, and the blue team steals it! Can they get more? Glacial Prison over the wall. That's going to be the showstopper as well as Archangel picks up the first kill onto Maokai. Big Rev has popped the World Breaker. They're going to be able to live for as long as they can, but that's a good knockup onto Weak Side Kitten on the backside here. Archangel incredibly low. Big Rev trying to finish it off and going to be able to be successful as a double kill for the Sejuani comes through. Zyniel trying to get away from Big Rev. They're rooted up. These spins are so good from this Gourd Drinker right now as Totor the Caster looking for Berserker. Going to be able to chase him down. Can't quite find the last bit of damage. It's a double kill for the Aurelian Sol. It's an ace, 2 for 5 in favor of the Kamikaze Penguins. They get a real big win for themselves, and this Dragon's flying all the way over to the last Rift Herald.
Yeah, and that is such a critical win there for the side of Kamikaze Penguins because they get the Dragon, they shut down the Aatrox, and their carries just continue to mount up in gold. You can see there, like every single, I hesitate to call Sejuani a carry, but you talk about 3 members on the side of Kamikaze Penguins now have 4 kills in their pocket. The Sejuani is only going to get tankier, harder and harder to kill. The A-Soul, which we've been somewhat fairly critical about the A-Soul's positioning against the Orianna Ball, but at the end of the day, what matters is A-Soul stays alive and A-Soul gets gold, and that's exactly what's happening. Mansberg is really, really happy with getting all those kills. Also, the Rakan has stayed almost completely untouched, and being untouched means that you're on the map longer, you get a bit more gold, you have the income to build something like a Radiant Virtue. It becomes that much more devastating for a team that's behind to try to cut through you. Yeah. Sejuani is just getting healthier and tankier. The Rakan Pop's ultimate suddenly harder to kill, and there's another engage.
Yeah, Glacial Prison in the mid lane here. ZZ Dog is coming through. Good knockup. Stars to send. Holy moly, look at that damage. Zenial's going to be the one picking up the kill, though. Weak Side Kitten taking real low, but going to be able to get away from this. There's a good shockwave to pull Mansford back in. Take some damage in response, but is going to be able to get away. This is looking real good for the blue team right now as they continue the siege onto the mid lane. Shelly has joined the party. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Everyone's here. They're trying to get away. And here comes the engage here. That's going to be the Nature's Grasp and the buff from the movement speed from Karma as well. But they're not going to be able to get any kills. They're just going to shut down Shelly. But they still lose the mid lane turret.
Yeah. And the mid lane outer turret is the most critical turret in the game as far as positioning goes because it gives you so much more access into the other team's jungle routes. So cracking that open and taking it down is really good for the side of Kamikaze Penguins. The other thing that I think we have talked about, oh my goodness. That Caitlyn, it's just half health.
Yeah.
Tatora, the Kastora. That's look, Jin is 1 in 5. Right? He's behind. He's definitively behind.
Yeah.
But that feels so bad to just eat. Because now you're going to see a situation like this, whereas Jin, you are just going to die.
Yep. Mansberg picks up another kill for themselves. It doesn't look like there's really any recourse that he can face here. The enemy team just kind of has to be like, yep, well, Jin is dead. As Archangel,
this is your life now.
Yeah. Archangel can just sit here and tank Big Rav for as long as they want, because here comes Mansberg in from the backside. Glacial Prison is available, but Big Rav is long gone. And they're not going to be able to find him this time as he finally gets away. They're going to be able to defend that turret for just a little bit longer down in this bot lane, as we continue to see kind of little sieges across the map.
Yeah, and I think that's what Kamikaze Penguin should do. Weak side Kitten, though. Getting a bit aggressive.
Zenial, oh, that shockwave is definitely a little too soon. As Zenial might be able to walk out this Nature's Grasp here. ZZ Dog might be in some trouble here. As they're now rooted. They're going to pop the quickness for movement speed. I think they're gone. I don't know if they'll pop Shirelia's battle song as well. Okay. Oh, okay, Blast going over the wall too. This is the great escape.
Oh, he's out.
Oh my god.
He's out. Oh man.
Holy moly. Someone get the spoons and the forks and a cart for an underground tunnel, because that's the greatest escape I've ever seen.
Oh jeez. Like, you see, strictly speaking, what was lost there was already lost when Caitlyn escaped, but the morale, so to speak, it will just dip down when you see the enemy support just run away from you like that, quite literally. And now, all of that movement towards ZZ Dog in the red side jungle for the side of Bidoof forfeits positioning for vision around Dragon. So yeah, ZZ Dog's a bit low, but you can see that the ones who are able to get a bit more of a positive setup were the Kamikaze Penguins. You can see right now, though, only Archangel is there. Mansberg a little bit further behind, but the rest of these teams getting a bit closer. Oh dear!
Face breaker onto Totor Lacaster and Zenial. Holy moly! Zenial here is just doing so much damage. Like, the Collector has done so much. I wish that I could see how much gold it's made them at this point. But here's the fight. Berserker might be in some trouble here, but the CC chain is just too good on a Big Rav. As Mini Polay tries to run for their life, they've got nothing left here in the chamber. 2 for 5. The team is just giving up the Dragon Soul, as this is a real big one for the blue team. I mean, that cooldown reduction is going to go a long way with how many times Zenial has been throwing out these ultimates.
Yeah, and that's also a ridiculously fast 4th Dragon, right?
Yeah, there it is.
Like, 23.5 minutes, and as you said, Caitlyn ultimate. Even though Caitlyn is 1 level behind the Orianna, Weak Side Kitten still gets, 60% health loss.
All right, here we go.
A single Caitlyn ult. This is a steal opportunity. It has to be that.
Yeah, it's a decent chunk of damage already. AoE, 1,000 damage, not going to go over the wall. Redifox can't do it. Archangel looking to maybe fight something, but these ultimates are still not available for the blue squad here. This might be able to turn it around, as that's going to be the first kill for the red team here. They're trying to get away as best they can, trying to kite backwards. Remember, these ultimates are still down. Big Rav looking for something. Archangel going to try to pull them in an opposite direction. Big Rav over the ball. Looking for ZZ Dog. Toto the Castor might be able to find Archangel. Flashes away from the snare. Might be able to get away from this, but here comes Redifox. There's the snare. There's the knockback. Totoro the Caster now has some space to work with. Archangel still looking for this Jin. Can't quite find it, but dealing some decent damage on the backswing here. They're going to keep him here for as long as possible. Archangel, no, there's going down. That's a big shutdown going over to Jin. 2 for nothing. 2 less Baron buffs on the map for the blue team is the best thing that the red team can hope for at this stage.
Yeah, I think Archangel just decided, like, all right, well, I'm probably going to die here. I already committed Flash. Might as well get some Heartsteel procs out of it. Gets all 3, so mission accomplished for the Sejuani.
Yeah.
Big Rav gets that nice objective bounty. So, keeping the game within 5k is relatively healthy. The big problem is obviously, this.
Yeah. Yeah,
this is devastating.
Yeah,
There's not much to say.
It's so hard to cast because people are just gone in 2 seconds. There's like nothing really to say. It's like, oh, Zayani will do it again. Like,
the catch power is so strong now.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have a Rakan, who is also comboing with ASOL or Sejuani, but you put the Hex Soul on top of it. And it's just...
I will say Zayani messed that up like a little bit and like missed a couple skill shots, but it still doesn't matter because of how much leap out. Like, this Caitlyn sitting on an LDR and a Collector, like, holy, like, what do you do against this? Oh my
lord.
Okay.
Look, I'm just saying we are seeing the reason why this build is getting nerfed.
Yeah.
for Caitlyn
Yeah.
next
Enjoy
patch.
enjoy for one more day. Xennial gets another kill. This time it's off to the Aatrox. Holy moly, 10-2 and 6 into the skies descend. Holy moly, so much damage. Smansberg is gonna pick up another kill for themselves. Gonna continue breathing onto the summoner platform. Xennial might have their ultimate come up in just like another second here, but I think they're
No,
just doing
no, no
too
more
much damage to the
devastation,
Nexus.
please.
There it is. Game number 1 goes over to the Kamikaze Penguins off the back of that holy 10-2 and 7 205. You know what and the viewers might have seen it because it was mousing over it. Just want to see how much gold Xennial got in total just from like the collector and also like the first strike. So the end of the game I can still take a look at it.
Uh,
928 gold from first strike. I don't know how much gold they got from the collector. If we can assume that it's for every kill or nearly every single one, I think it might be like 8 kills after picking up
yeah,
the assessor.
you can like take away at least like the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, the first couple. We'll say 8. Right? 8 seems like a good enough number. That's like 200, that's 1,000 gold that they got between the two of these things. Like holy moly.
Yeah, and in spite of that, right? In spite of that, in the first strike gold, Caitlyn
Mhm.
still has the most gold in this game.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first strike and the collector, they pay off incredibly well as far as that value is concerned by pushing it pretty much almost a full item's worth forward. But yeah, that Caitlyn build is awful to play
Yeah.
against.
Yeah, it's real good. It turns out it's pretty good, especially against a team that wasn't really stacking armor. I mean, once again,
Yeah,
you know, we mentioned this in Champ Select, but the most amount of armor built by the enemy team was 30 armor from a Radiant Virtue built by Red Fox. Oh, excuse me. Well, they had a Sunfire Aegis as well.
mhm,
But you know, by the time that by the time Big Rav was building a chain vest, it was already kind of too late, right?
yeah.
And then we take a look at other maybe tanky members, like even Oriana sitting on a cloth armor towards the end of the game. You know, it's too late. There's so many members that like fall victim to this lethality that like there's not a whole lot you can do if you weren't stacking armor earlier.
Yeah, and lethality, it's a very snowballing
Yeah.
system, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the flat armor pen that used to be in place, but it scales with your champion's level. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're snowballing, it feels really, really good.
Yes.
If you're behind, it feels absolutely useless.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's League of Legends. We love
Yep.
snowballing here. That being said, yeah, that is a case in point of why Riot is nerfing that build.
Yeah. We are going to take just a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be in picks and bans of game number 2 of Kamikaze Penguins versus Bidoof. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Hello, Style fans. Welcome back to Style Esports. My name is Shinkari. I'm joined by Trutabaga, and here we are in picks and bans of game number 2. Kamikaze Penguins has taken on the HM Masters themselves. Bidoof, your favorite beaver from Gen 4, ready to go and maybe bring us to a game 3, because if you miss game 1, there was a lethality Caitlyn running rampant throughout that whole game. And it looks like Bidoof is wasting no time in banning it away this first game here. Gonna move on into our first picks. True, what do you think we're going to be seeing this game? Do you think we're going to be seeing a lot of the same? Maybe some stuff changed up. What are your thoughts?
I think we're going to see it mostly the same from Killer Penguins, and I say that right as they lock into Sejuani. It makes a whole lot of sense. It was very successful for Archangel. Bidoof, I would imagine they want to change up a number of things. You can see Zach, who has a lot of creative gank paths because of
Mm-hmm.
Elastic Slingshot. Really hard to ward against that, anticipate Zach's pathing. But the other thing is, as far as solo lanes are concerned, I don't think Bidoof feels too threatened. Top lane was a winning matchup for Bidoof. Like, it was going really, really well for Big Rav up there in the top lane. It's just when things went out of lane that things started to slip between Bidoof's fingers.
Yeah.
Uh, so what they really have to shore up is their bottom lane, and I think you can argue that the situation in bottom lane is the result of mistakes, and the situation even in mid lane was the
Yeah.
result of small mistakes, not really respecting roams or spacing. So Bidoof, they have to play a bit safer in the bottom lane. Or perhaps they feel like because Caitlyn's banned away, they can lock something in like a Kaisa and still have decent scaling. But wow, that is a gauntlet being thrown if I've
Yeah.
ever seen one. Locking in Vayne.
Yeah. It's
That is bold.
Yeah, it's bold, and also I don't know. Like I think you and I have had this discussion, especially with the changes to her. Jinx is insanely powerful right now. Like
Mhm.
the fact that her passive stacks up with the attack speed and lethality, allowing I've seen Jinxes go to 5 attack speed. You know how that's gigantic. Okay, that is
Yeah.
insane. How fast Jinx can attack. If you're looking for a hyper carry, I feel like Jinx just fills that a little bit better here. Vayne is a bit of a gamble, right? It's certain, like you said, it's a gauntlet to be thrown down, right? If you are incredibly confident with Vayne, and you will do so much work. But the problem is Bidoof is also locked in here like the world's meta duo here, Kaisa Nautilus, right? Like Vayne, even though she has the Poppy and Sejuani to defend her, I think you've said this before, like if you have depth charge put on you, then all you have to do is just kind of sit there and take it, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't cleanse it off, and then once you're CC'd by it, there's no amount of tenacity that's going to reduce the airborne duration. And it's like, oh well, if Nautilus uses depth charge on Vayne, then it's not then it's going to be she's going to be dead anyway. Yeah, but like
Yeah.
Vayne is very close range. Vayne getting hit by depth charge is a pretty, like, I'm just saying, uncommon, if we're gonna uncommon, but like still pretty like doable. It's like pretty plausible that that's gonna be happening a lot.
Yeah. And talking about the world's meta, it's like you also think about what functions with Nautilus, right?
Yeah.
Like literally Nautilus players will flash just so they get into ult range.
Hmm.
They won't flash hook you. They will just flash ult you, wait for the depth charge to pop you up, and by that time, they've walked towards you, autoed you, and then they hook you
Yeah.
because that will finalize the CC, and you can't really get out of that.
Hmm.
Now, as you were saying, yes, like you have a Poppy, you have a Sejuani that can potentially keep you safe as Vayne, but as Vayne, you are opting into, on average, like a 30 to 35-minute timer before your damage starts to mount up. Now, if I'm Killer Penguins, I want to draft something that can kind of shore up those disadvantages. Vex, not necessarily the champion I would say to do so.
Yeah.
Um, yes, Vex has a lot of like team fighting burst potential, but I wouldn't say it necessarily shores up the problems that Vayne kind of introduces or does not take care of. Um, they already have a fully competent front line. Poppy is technically a flex pick and can go into top jungle or support. Looks like they're mulling it over.
Yeah, it's
And that's going to
probably
be a
a
support
support.
Poppy.
Hmm.
Yeah. Darius in the top lane is bold, though, considering that Bidoof will be having counter pick.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just there to have like a top laner that can just like sit top lane. We don't need to give any sort of attention and they can be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think Darius at the end of the day is a champion that can't just come out of nowhere and then become like very strong, right?
Hmm.
Darius, I feel like a lot of the times Darius can lose lane, get one good team fight, and then they are a problem, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Like they could go 0 and 10 in lane and then get like 3 dunks in a row, and then suddenly like your entire team is losing to this Darius. So I can see what they're going for. Like this bottom half of the map here is definitely designed around the Vayne, and then the top half of the map is like, hey, sorry, Darius, you're on an island, right? Like that's my assumption looking at this, right? Like we
Yeah.
want to protect the Vayne as much as possible. Like the Vex is like, hey, if you're gonna use a bunch of movement around me, then I'm just gonna get this like fear that comes out faster than the speed of light. Um
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about like damage distribution, scaling for the side of Killer Penguins, but now to talk about Bidoofs. Um, so Zach has his own amount of damage. Orin has his own deceptive amount of damage, but very rarely do people say that they will do a carry's amount of damage, although sometimes they do.
mhm,
Um, and thinking about damage scaling for Bidoof, right? It's not exactly there, right?
right.
You have Kaisa, who has a variety of builds, skills, but it all in all boils down to Kaisa scales well. Her build variety generally allows her to be comfortable in a lot of different situations. Oriana, honestly, Shinkari, I think Oriana might be one of the highest presence mid laners in League right now,
Yeah.
just because she's always relevant, always performs decently well, strong
Uh-huh.
team fighting. Um, and so Bidoof has kind of opted themselves into a similar situation that Killer Penguins have with what their damage scaling should feel like, what their front lines kind of look like. So this might be a slugfest of a game.
Yeah. I I really think that a lot of this early game should be spent shutting down this Vayne.
Hmm.
I think just because of the way Bidoof has drafted their team here, they have 3 tanks, right? And sure, these tanks can get onto Vayne relatively easily, right? But the problem is that Vayne does have her own defenses, and the entire enemy team is built around the Vayne at this point, right? So like, if you try to engage Elastic Slingshot, even Call of the Forge God seems like the only, and Depth Charge seems like the only assured way to get onto this Vayne. But even if you do, you still have to go through Poppy, Darius, Sejuani, right? And even Vex, right?
Hmm.
And it feels like getting onto this Vayne is going to be a lot harder, even though we've said like, hey, like it's going to be relatively easy for this team to get onto it. I think I'm starting to lose faith just because of how much Bidoof has invested into this tanky frontline here.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a good target for Vayne to be hitting within her range. She's not going to have to tumble forward, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
in order to do something, in order to be aggressive, right? She can rely on her team to bring targets to her or even just follow up on an initiation, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a plethora of targets for Vayne to be hitting, and there's not a bad one for her to hit.
Like critically for Vayne, like, and I agree, Vayne should never really be tumbling forward in a situation here. Vayne should also, like you said, not really need to make use of Night Hunter as a passive because the team is not particular. Like Bedoof's team is not particularly mobile. They can't get away super easily. Like yes, Zach has Elastic Slingshot, but pretty much no one else has a strong escape cool,
Mm-hmm.
a strong escape tool, unless Nautilus is actually like hooking himself to terrain.
Yeah.
But all in all, you are absolutely right. Like Xennial should not be running or chasing people down. But what Xennial does have to do, right? This vein has to be able to tumble away from a lot of these large AoE CCs
Yes.
because, like we're talking about, electric slingshot, or elastic slingshot. Gosh, um, let's bounce, searing charges, knock up and into terrain,
Yeah.
command shockwave, depth charge, which you can't actually dodge out of. So those abilities are large and they can control zones really, really well. So that's what I would be worried about as Vayne. Like
Yes.
how good can I stay away from these large AoEs? But otherwise, it's a very straightforward plan.
Yeah. And I agree. I think, and we might be and I think my problem with with how we've been discussing this. I feel like we've been talking about Vayne more so in a vacuum than anything else, right? If KP plays the same way that they did in game one, which was a lot more team focused, like they had their macro play was on point. Like they had
Mhm.
wards all over the map. It was lit up like a Christmas tree for the blue team, right? They were constantly moving as a unit together. Lots of roams from Berserker and ZZ Dog, like into the mid lane for Manstberg. Like this is this is a team that has some decent communication and has been playing well together. I think this might be just a slam dunk for them, right? Like they've got the team with a lot of things that say, hey, if you're melee, you're in some trouble. And Bidoof kind of, I don't want to say drafted themselves into a corner with it, but Bidoof definitely isn't doing themselves any favors, right? I think with the team that KP has drafted here, that they
Mhm.
do have a chance to give Vayne the space that she needs, even if she gets depth charged, even if she gets dove on by Zach, in order to turn this around and be able to protect herself. Now, she might have to build a little bit more defensively in terms of items just because of how much dive there is, but I still think at the end of the day, I think Ziennial is going to be really, really successful in this vein.
Yeah, absolutely. Like talking about all the tools that
Yeah.
KP does have available to themselves. Like Darius can soak up frontline time all on his own. Sejuani would be there too. Also, we haven't talked about how Sejuani and Darius can play off one another pretty
Mm-hmm.
well. The other things to me though, Vex Poppy can really also provide a lot of AoE CC area denial, especially with Keeper's Verdict. So there are tools available for Killer Penguins to have that team oriented style and keep the vein untouched.
Yeah, but we are going to take just a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be on the Rift of game number 2 of KP versus Kamikaze Penguins versus Bidoof. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Style Esports. My name is Shinkari. I'm joined by Trutabaga, and here we are on the Rift of game number 2 of Kamikaze Penguins versus Bidoof. We are on the Rift, ready to get this game underway. We're super excited. Let's see if Bidoof has what it takes to bring us to a game number 3.
I mean, it's certainly possible. We saw that Bidoof fell to a deficit off of a bot lane disadvantage, a number of mistakes made in mid lane. But overall, like, also giving credit where credit is due, Kamikaze Penguins did really good for themselves with that team-oriented playstyle. You can see here, stacked up as 5, potentially anticipating an invade from Bidoof with the Nautilus, which definitely is possible. Can definitely be quite aggressive with that sort of movement. But looks like Bidoof not looking for that. They just went for a standard 5-point. Didn't actually go forward to get any sort of vision on the camps, so not too much to be said about that. I will say, as far as setup goes, I feel like for Mini Puli, it's hard to quantify what keystone you want to go, because yes, in general, Glacial is always good for Nautilus, but the main attractiveness of Glacial, in addition to the slow, which is nice, is also reducing the amount of damage that your opponent will deal to your allies.
Yeah.
And playing against Vayne, her primary source of damage is true damage, so there's not much to be said about that. So you're mostly relying on the slow there, which I think is okay. But you can still go for something aggressive like Aftershock to pressure the Vayne with your own damage from your tanky stats.
Yeah, not to mention that I think Nautilus is another one of those characters that in these early levels is insanely high damage. ZZ Dog in some trouble here, taken incredibly low. The Ignite is ticking on this Poppy here. Did have to burn that heal and the flash as well from ZZ Dog, but they are incredibly low. They do have to be careful.
Yeah, and that's that whole world's meta you were talking about. Kai'Sa and Nautilus able to push first wave very, very well. They just get that advantage very early on, especially against something like a Vayne Poppy, who at level 1, they can't really do anything to contest you walking up into wave.
Yeah.
So, Tutor like Histor and Mini Poulet works out quite well for them. They do get 2 summoners out, the flash from the Poppy, which is not a whole loss, since Poppy still has Hex Flash. Top lane, though, Zorker stacking that passive up real nice.
Yeah, and this is kind of the annoying thing about short engages against Darius, right? Darius wants real... It seems like Darius wants, like, really a lot longer engages. He just kind of wants a long enough engage, right? He just wants to stack up the passive as much as he can, so that when you leave the engagement, you're still taking damage.
Yeah. So what initially looked like an even trade ends up still going Darius's way. So, so it seems to be that way. Mid lane, weak side Kitten, not opting in for phase rush this time around instead. Oh, wait.
Yeah, good steadfast presence. Zyennial might be able to turn this around, but ZZ Dog taken incredibly low here. Once again, the damage from Zyennial not going to be super good this early. Can be deceptively good, but, you know, if you're not expecting it. But the enemy team seems to be doing perfectly fine dealing with the Vayne damage so far.
Yeah. But yeah, weak side Kitten opted in to take summon area, so a little bit like more chip damage, so to speak.
Okay, we got an elastic slingshot onto Archangel here. He's going to make Sejuani and the minion kiss. He's just going to be taking a little bit more damage here as they back away. It's a wash in the mid lane as Zac shows up for the first gank, and so does Archangel. But we've got full clears on both sides here, so looks like Archangel's just going to be taking their first back.
Yep. Like, initially it looked like the Sejuani was a bit ahead on pacing against the Zac, because both junglers pathed towards top, but ultimately it was the Sej that came away with the Scuttle. That mid lane fight, though, does turn things back to all even, just because Redafox able to force out that Sejuani's flash. And also, Mansford now has to TP back into lane. Oh, bot lane, though.
Zyennial just playing a little bit too much with fire here. Going to be trapped between all 3 of the members of the red team there. ZZ Dog not going to be able to save them as they walk away with a nice kill. First blood for the Kai'Sa here is Mansford. Looking for some damage on a weak side Kitten who is out of mana. Not going to be able to find anything just that, but first blood has been spilled. It's on the side of the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want if you are Bidoof in this situation, because you get the gold onto the Kai'Sa, you put Vayne at a deficit, and that's exactly what you don't want if you are Kamikaze Penguins, because your job description for this game essentially is keep Vayne alive. There is nothing else you have to do. You just have to make sure that the vein scales. Yes, top lane is going well, but that's what you wanted. That's also what you anticipated, right? We talked about how Darius is probably just going to be left alone up here in top lane because Darius can manage his lane just fine. Mid lane,
That's
we're
what
in a bit
Vera
of
was
trouble.
talking about, but Mini Pole immediately with the hook here, dashing forward. Archangel still looking for a little bit more, but that's going to be the shockwave in response here. Going to pull them back in as Mini Pole looking for a re-engage here. Mansford does pop that ultimate, looking for the Orianna. Going to flash away before they can finish the deal. Archangel really low. ZZ Dog showing up, looking for that steadfast presence, trying to get something here. Throws out the auto attack, but not going to be able to get it. Oh, actually does at the end of the... I don't know how they got that. What?
I am.
We need an instant replay.
What?
What happened?
Was it the aftershock?
It had to have been, but they were
Because
so
the
far
buckler.
away.
No, it was Q. ZZ Dog tossed down Hammer Shock, and Orianna walked back on top of it to auto.
Oh no.
Oh man.
Okay, it had. Okay. All right. Okay.
Look,
that's
Hammer
upsetting.
Shock does max percent HP. I mean, like, granted, I seriously doubt that they support Poppy should be getting a kill very often. Weak side Kitten was like a stiff breeze away from dying.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's kind of the spot where it's like, okay, cut your loss. Hope your team can finalize a kill on Poppy. Like, that why Poppy's here. Speaking of, why Poppy's here.
Yeah, look at that burst damage they were able to do on a Toto the caster there. That's a decent chunk. You can't be messing around with that. As Mini Pole has shown up, and once again, Red Fox in the wings here, using those gank angles you were talking about. They do have to be careful. They do not see this elastic slingshot happening. ZZ Dog goes right in, sees the Zac. There's the hook coming through. Going to stop that with the steadfast presence. To be able to walk away as now Sejuani coming into the bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, Poppy is one of those champions that's uniquely situated to be effective against Zac. Oh, Sej ultimate thrown out, though.
Yeah, Glacial Prison looking for the Condemn. Hits the side, just the clip of the wall there, and Archangel is going to be the one picking that up as Berserker underneath the turret flashes away, dives to the turret. Triumph is going to be able to give Big Rav help, and he lives to tell the tale. Holy
Berserker
moly.
wasn't sure that the bleed would tick out, kind of walked back in looking for one more auto, then realized, oh crud, the tower is going to kill me. And that is all Big Rav needs in that situation. Just a little bit of healing goes a long way here. So, looks like it's going to be the Ornn that goes up to a slight early advantage in that top lane. But overall, things are even all across the map as the mid laners, once again, there's been a lot of action and damage in the mid lane between both of these games. But more often than not, Mansford and Weakside Kitten do not actually kill each other.
Yeah.
They slap each other around a lot. They just don't kill one.
It's very much a I didn't hit you that hard, please don't tell mom kind of energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this situation, Archangel and Red Fox are mom.
Yeah. But overall, this is a very even game, right? Like, yes, Kamikaze Penguins are out to an early lead, but it's not super duper significant, especially not in the ways that things were going last game. So overall, Bidoof, I wouldn't say they're happy with the game going even because you're still really concerned about the Vayne, but it's somewhat comfortable for them.
Yeah. As we take stock about where we're at, 200 gold in the lead, not a whole lot to write home about, but it is a bit of a lead for the Kamikaze Penguins here. They're still, CS is starting to look a little bit more even than it was in the past, just kind of back and forth between who has the CS lead in different lanes. But man, I mean, the Rift Herald was claimed. It was directed camera doesn't like it when people actually do Rift Herald for some reason, and hasn't for the past like years. So that was kind of hidden. And we also saw the dragon get snuck away as well by Archangel. So 2 neutral objectives getting secured by them as they're going to get slammed into the wall here. Torto, the caster, taken incredibly low. The exhaust is going to come down. Here comes all the Forge God and Elastic Slingshot over the wall. Glacial Prison is going to come through, but they're not going to be able to save them this time. As Mansford is once again fighting weak side Kitten in the mid lane here. Throwing about some damage, not going to be able to get the kill. Kill for the top side, wash down to the bot lane. And it looks like they're just going to spend a little bit more time trying to get some turret plates here. as ZZ Dog just walks over to get the buckler.
Hey, he wants the buckler, man. Like, yeah, I mean, like, it works out for ZZ Tag because the Poppy did not attack the Nautilus, did not attack the Kai'Sa, just wanted to use buckler auto on the turret, ended up doing exactly that. But we did see, once again, the Kai'Sa, right, getting hard pressured by this, functionally what is a double condemn bot lane, right?
Yeah.
Both Vayne and Poppy have that same mechanic where they hit you with their ability, you get slammed into the wall, you take the ability damage again, and you're stunned.
Yeah.
And it's been working out incredibly well, pressuring this Kai'Sa. Also, because Exhaust doesn't do anything, really, against Vayne. Like, it lowers the physical damage, but the main attraction, which is that percent max HP true damage, is there's nothing that can reduce it other than lowering Vayne's attack speed.
Yeah. As now, ZZ Dog might be in some trouble here. Gonna use that steadfast presence to protect them against the elastic slingshot as Mansberg is gonna use their passive there in order to fear off some other potential gankers onto the Poppy there. They're slowly gonna make their way back as ZZ Dog. Oh, okay, well, they're in a bit of trouble here. They're going to try to get away using that slam, but not going to be able to get away fast enough as 2 ultimates spent on the Poppy. You're going to be able to find that kills. Mansberg might be in some trouble here as they continue to throw out auto attacks.
Oh!
The Prey Seeker is going to be the one picking up the double kill for Totoro the caster here as they go to 3-0. Looking really good for themselves as Berserker comes down from the top lane, looking to at least neutralize this wave in the mid. As we see a bit of a lane swap here from the bot lane going mid.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking a little bit ago how it feels like the Kai'Sa's kind of been neutralized in lane. So the Poppy and the Vayne have been doing everything necessary to make sure Kai'Sa can't farm. But now, Bidoof, they have their bot lane roam mid. They're able to find a very effective opportunity because ZZ Dog... I won't say the Poppy wasn't thinking of it. The Poppy had not maybe considered that the bot lane would still be there.
Yeah.
Probably thinking like, okay, well, it didn't get me, so they're probably just cutting their losses and going back bot lane. No, they were waiting. Yeah. They were playing the long game there.
Yeah, as Berserker trying to get some damage on a big Ray here, gets the full stack of the passive. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything outside of that, so they're probably just going to back away. It's still a relatively good engage for the Berserker there. Didn't really take a lot of damage on the back end there. Was able to get a pull after the Flame Breath. So that's good. Once again, we are positioning for this dragon here. It's up in less than a minute. It's going to be very important to keep our eyes on because this is now going to be the second Drake of the game, which sets the pace for when the soul spawns. So, rather important one as we see the blue team already ready to go. The red team already has the inside track.
Yeah, I mean, last time around, Bidoof gave up, 2 free drags.
Yeah, that's going to be the engage here. ZZ Dog on the backside here actually gets a really good set of CC. Ornhorn comes through as Berserker looking for something here. Is going to find out Redifox hasn't used that ultimate. That's going to be the Zac passive popping. Minipole is in the middle of the team, but they're going to go down, and they're going to trade support for support as Zianiel goes over the wall looking for Totoro the caster, but has passed use the flash, but they are going to be able to get the kill. Holy moly. Weak side kill. Weak side kitten. Not going to be able to turn anything around for them as Poppy and Nautilus finally respawn. It's 3 for 1 in favor of the blue squad, and they're going to be able to get this Drake as a hard-earned win for themselves as Vayne finally puts some kills onto the scoreboard for herself.
So we're kind of seeing a reflection of what we were discussing might happen in team fights during champ selects, right? Yes, you have a lot of strong AoE CC, but if you're not using it to pressure the Vayne, then the Vayne will end up free hitting, the Vayne will end up running you down, especially because where you are in this game right now, pretty much everyone has somewhat relevant damage against one another. Mm-hmm. So especially if you exhaust all of your tools on everyone but the Vayne should have an easier time navigating the fight.
Yeah.
Zianiel, pretty much had eyes only for Kai'Sa.
Yeah.
Right? Like, making sure, okay, well, Kai'Sa's right here. No one's pressuring the Kai'Sa. I can just flash over the wall. Does exactly that. Kai'Sa dies to one final auto attack and works out quite nicely. Whoa!
They might actually be able to find Mini Polay here after getting stunned up by the Steadfast Presence. Archangel is going to be the one picking up the kill there as Redifox is in the area. Going to use the Elastic Slingshot to get over the wall there, but Really, really good job by the blue team to pick up that cheeky kill there. They are 1.7k gold in the lead, and we do have a Rift Herald spawning on the top of half of the map as well. So we might see the junglers make their way up towards there.
Yeah, and you can see right now the Vayne's itemization starting to get going, right? It does have this Storm Razor in the inventory now. So the additional bonus magic damage, nice because, A, magic damage is hard to itemize against, especially when it's on an AD. But the other more critical thing, 45% move speed for 1 second when those things are charged up, allows Xennial more mobility to either chase someone down or to navigate a tense fight situation, which is what we said would be critical for Vayne. Uh, but we were talking about that 1.7k gold lead, which was somewhat incremental, but now it's going more to about 2.5k. And once again, the team that is stacking up those dragons is Kamikaze Penguins, and this time it is a chem map. So not quite the hex that was so critical last game, but still worth fighting over.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be as powerful. I feel like that, hey, we're on low HP, but we're going to get some additional stats. It's probably better for the team with a lot of tanks. The ones that can, like, take a bit of damage and then be able to slowly turn it around. But, oh no, Mini Pole is caught again. Cyaniel gonna tank the depth charge, but the Conden is gonna come out before they're knocked into the air, and they're gonna go down as Berserker up on this top half of the map. Did get the Rift Herald stolen away from them, but now they're gonna try to turn this around as Mansfordberg comes in, gonna land the fear, pull back in, gonna get the dunk. Oriana pull back in. Berserker gets a big heal, throws out another dunk onto this Kaisa here. I don't think she's gonna live through the damage, but Big Rav is still fighting, gonna be able to find that kill for the passive here. But look, here comes Cyaniels. They're gonna be able to find another one, but it goes over to ZZ Dog. Archangel picks up another one. They might have lost the Rift Herald, but they clean swept through the team, only losing Berserker. It's 1 for 4, nearly an ace. Holy moly.
Yeah, and Berserker still got the kill on the Kaisa at the end of the day, right? Like, that passive burns, or I guess in this case bleeds so hard that there's nothing that Tator the Castor could do other than just sit in the back of Baron Pit and wait to die. Like, you actually saw Xennial tumble in, and just as the Kaisa dies, like, okay, well, I guess I'll just direct my attention to everyone else then.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty catastrophic when you consider, like, all you're fighting over is second Rift Herald. Don't get me wrong, like, that's still important objective, but definitely not really worth it in the grand scheme of things. Weak Side Kitten.
Weak Side Kitten might definitely be in trouble. That's going to be the Vex ultimate coming through. Oh, no way. Oh, okay. Leandres is going to be able to get the kill for Weak Side Kitten at the end of the day. But I think that's another kill for Darius there. I'm fairly certain was the one picking up the kill there. Oh, man. This is not exactly where you want to be at this stage. Like, once again, Berserker had been behind in lane for a decent chunk of time. Down in CS, had gotten killed by the Ornn a couple times with the help of Redifox, but this is exactly what it was talking about. Darius got one good team fight, and now they're just like a threat.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's also a bit of a layup kill to get, you know, like, you're just there, you see that the two mid laners are duking out in top lane, and you're like, guys, what are you doing here? This is my zone.
Yeah.
Like, the silver lining for Weak Side Kitten is that it ended up being a flash for flash 1-for-1. But yeah, obviously you don't want to give the Darius any additional gold. Like, he was already behind early, and now he's, as you said, completely back in the game, completely relevant. And that's just another thing that you have to be scared of. Like, because you just saw, even before Darius got that gold in the inventory, Darius was pretty much able to one-shot your Kaisa.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be now? Because he's still building somewhat offensive stats at the moment. The Dragon has spawned, though. Both teams eyeing up this objective.
This is going to be an objective bounty for the red team here. They're popping Shelly. This is a good idea. Shelly's going to walk mid lane. Bit of an awkward place to pop Shelly, but I think it's mostly going to be fine, right? This is the stereotypical play of like, hey, you either fight us or give up your mid lane, but they are immediately looking to fight. Darius is teleporting in, or Call of Forge God is looking to stop the team on the other end here. Depth charge comes out on to Berserker here, but look at where Cyaniel is. No one is hitting this Vayne, and a lot of CC has already been used. Tumbles in, gets 2. Can they get more? Totor Lacaster taking a lot of damage. It's 3 for the Vayne, 1 for Archangel. They might have gotten that mid lane turret in response, but they lost 4. They lost the Chemtech, and now they might lose more. Blue team popping off 6,000 gold in the lead now.
Okay. Well, Zayanil taking a slight detour from the Baron to make sure the Rift Herald dies. I mean, honestly, I think we'd all be surprised at how many times people just
Yeah.
completely forget about Rift Herald charging. But that was a fantastic team fight for Kamikaze Penguins. In fact, Shinkari, that is pretty much the exact same team fight that we saw around Soul Drake last game. Because what happened last game was it looked like Bidoof were going to get the dragon. They started up. They have the inside track to set up for it. And then Kamikaze Penguins pull the trigger. They commit pretty much everyone forward. And the Caitlyn stayed untouched last time. This time around, it was the Caitlyn the Asol, but the Caitlyn died, I think, critically in game 1. But this time around, Xennial stays completely untouched, able to just mop up. I think it was Big Rav who was caught out, like, just stuck between pretty much every single member of Kamikaze Penguins. And then the rest of Bidoof, they were actually kind of corralled by Berserker's TP into the bush and forced them down in the river. And because of like that very weird situation Bidoof found themselves in, it looked like they weren't ready at all to take that sort of fight.
Yeah.
And there was no disengage. That, like, we've actually talked about this. Like, Vayne will just be able to run you down because the team that Bidoof have drafted for themselves, yes, it has strong engage tools, yes, it has strong AoE, but if they're caught in a situation where they can't be in or they're not ready, they can't get away. They have to fight.
Yeah, not to mention that, I think this is another point in the Darius's favor, right? Like, you have to answer that Darius. That Darius is going to kill Trutabaga if you don't spend CC on it. But the second you spend CC stopping the Darius, Xennial is like, that's my go button. And you saw it. Xennial tumbled forward. Big Rav in some trouble. Call the Forge God, gonna knock Berserker into the air. But look where Xennial is on the backside here. Has an in-track into this fight. Retta Fox is getting real low. Gonna pop that passive, but they're looking for mini Polay right here. Xennial's not gonna be able to finish that off here, but they're still really healthy. Big Rav tries to go back in and finish off these low HP bars, but they're walking right into Vayne. Huge knockup. They might be able to turn this around here, but Mansberg is on the back end here. ZZ Dog. Vayne goes down. They're looking for more. Good stun. Can they get the damage? Flash away from the ultimate. Berserker is still here. Mansberg is now taking some damage. The burst damage from Orianna is good, and Torto the Caster is looking for more. They have vision. There's the Prey Seeker. There's the burst. They might be able to get it. The movement speed, the invisibility. Berserker can't quite get close enough. That's going to be weak side Kitten finding one. Mansberg goes down. Double kill for the Orianna. What a turnaround fight. 5 for 3. Huge for the red team here, but they're still down 5,000 gold. But this is a huge breath of life for Bidoof.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is a pretty much the situation that they need to replicate, right? They're fighting in a compressed corridor. Yes, they had already lost Retta Fox, but Archangel had died as well. So both teams are kind of down on their front line. But huge read from Big Rav. Massive, in fact. To see the Volcanic Pillar, know, okay, well, the entire enemy team is in here, uses the Searing Charge, gets a quad knockup onto every single living member of Kamikaze Penguins. Yes, he pays for it with his life. So does Mini Poulet, but hey, that's the CC you needed. You get the kill onto Xennial first, then ZZ Dog, and then it's only Berserker and Mansberg who have to kite out against the Kaisen and Orianna, and we saw Kitten stay pretty much untouched in that fight. So, massive fight win, as you said, Shinkari, for this side of Bidoof. They're able to get a second wind for themselves, so to speak. Obviously, things are still tense for them, right? Dragon spawning in less than a minute. And that is soul for this game, and you don't want to let the soul go over for free, especially because, well, I mean, how many times do you see Darius at below 50% HP and you think you can kill him?
Yeah.
But that is a lot of gold into Kaisa and Orianna's pockets that they desperately needed. So, Bidoof, not necessarily at a gold advantage at this point, but certainly I feel like they have tempo back in their hands. They are trying to set up for this dragon.
Mansberg might be caught up here. Goes Golden, the elastic slingshot over the wall here. They're going to knock away Orianna, and that's important. Red turret has been destroyed on the top side here, which is going to be the teleport in. Mansberg is taking recovery, though. He's going to go down. Vayne is not in this fight. And this is important. Berserker looking for the kill onto Kaisa, but they're chasing way too hard. ZZ Dog fighting in the, now in the middle of 3. Berserker is healing up so much, and look who's finally joined the fight. It's Eniel, and they're doing so much damage. They're trying to kite away, but they got nowhere to go. The steadfast presence, the CC from all these big beefy frontliners are just going to keep him in place. Eniel comes in big for their team. They get the Dragon Soul. They don't have a Baron to go to, but there's a lot of tier 2 turrets to claim.
Yeah, and like this is like okay, we saw just earlier from Bidoof, it's a team fight that they knew exactly what they needed to do. They got the CC onto the Vayne, and they took a good fight. This time around, technically the fight starts out pretty well for them. They recognize that, hey guys, Vayne is clearing in mid lane. We can pull the trigger. We can start fighting immediately, and that's exactly what they do. The unfortunate part is that Tutorial Castor, while they do get the early kill on to Mansberg, that's Kaisa using Killer Instinct already, and also throwing herself in front of the Sejuani. So the Kaisa has to kite away. The DPS pretty much drops to 0 in that situation. Only the tanks are really fighting. Everyone's scrambling. And because of all the time it took to get to that point, the Vayne just sweeps in. You see ZZ Dog get another charge into the wall, get that CC, kick things off nicely for Vayne, and a massive win for the side of Kamikaze Penguins. They get the soul as well, and they are incredibly well positioned to close out this series. They are almost 9k ahead at this point, just below it. They are very well positioned to start up this Baron, I'd say.
Yeah, I want to throw a phrase by you and see if you agree with it. Do you think that fight that they found, right? You said start off really well. Do you think it took too long for them to execute and like finish off the enemy team? Because if they had I feel like if they had gotten the numbers advantage, Vayne shows up, they just immediately turn on Eniel, right? But there's still like three members of the blue team still alive, still kicking, and still being able to turn that fight around, which gave Eniel the space that they needed in order to win that fight.
Yeah, and I think that's, you can call it experience, you can call it shot calling. It's just about being aware of what you need to do in fights, as we see another fight breaking out.
Yeah, that's a huge keeper's verdict. They're going to knock them away. Give a little bit more space to the blue team here to kind of join back up. Radiant Virtue has been at least used because of Poppy here, so that's going to be on cooldown. But, ooh, that Mansberg might have found a pick here, but now they're in trouble. Got nowhere to go, and Totar the Caster, that's a really big play from the Archangel. Looking to make the best out of this. Flashes in, but there's the immediate knock-up onto Eniel here. So much CC has been spent on this Vayne. And now Berserker might be the only member left that needs to be able to turn this around. Mini Palais is going to be the next casualty for this Darius here. He's gotten 2. Can he find more? A triple kill done. Quadra kill. Holy moly. They can't stop the pain train. You might have taken down the Vayne, but it was all for naught, as Darius is going to be the one bringing the destruction to your team.
Yeah, I mean, you actually talked about that earlier, Shinkari, right? Like, okay, well, we've tossed all of our CC on one target. That's great. What about the other target? This Darius, who started, things starting out a little bit rough for Darius in laning phase, but just that one critical team fight, as you mentioned, Darius is able to get the gold in the pocket. And really, like, this is not, like, the most devastating Darius, like, in the world. But against a team that's effectively all frontline and all low damage tanks, it's fine for this build, because you'll still get your access to true damage, you still get all that incremental bleeding that works out so nicely for the Darius. And yeah, Berserker able to just have a it's just a playground in that fight, getting reset after reset. It did get stopped up a little bit because of the Zac passive, but still, that is completely fine for the side of Kamikaze Penguins. They are now definitively at a 10k gold lead. Baron makes it almost 12.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like they are just dotting their I's, crossing their T's for this one.
Yeah, and this is the gold lead where it's like, hey, it will take a comedy of errors from Kamikaze Penguins here in order to come back into this game. In order for Bidoof to come back into this game, even just even it out. Right? And then from there, you need to work to even out the gold. And we can discuss, the gold value of the Orin items and be like, oh, well, it's actually this amount of gold because Ornn items are worth this amount of gold value, and like I feel like we're getting a little bit too into minutia there, but
Yeah.
it's like 10,000 gold is we're gonna win the game, if not now, very soon, kind of gold lead.
Yeah, especially because it's not as though Vayne gets weaker as
Yeah.
time goes on. Yes, you'll see a bit of a plateau when like all items are in, but obviously the Darius is still a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Vayne still has another full item to build if it gets there. Honestly, if I were to side of Kamikaze Penguins, I don't even want to let the game last another minute
Yeah.
to open up Elder as a way to potentially lose. I just want to siege up the base. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a nice
Oh,
stun.
okay. Well. Well, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about, like, Sejuani's ultimate might as well be a point and click, as here comes the rest of the fight called the Forge God. It has been used, but Zioniel's still in this fight. Look at the amount of damage that they're able to put down, even on the big wrap here, taking incredibly low. The Prey Seeker is going to be Cathy and Rain is going to be the picking up the kill there, as now the rest of the team still looking to fight through. 4v3 now. They might be able to turn this around, but the Baron Up minions come through. The pop of the late FX ultimate is going to be another kill for them. Sejuani picks up the kill on the Ornn, and now Mini Filet is the only person left, but the dunk from Darius is enough to seal the deal. It's an ace for the blue team. The Nexus crumbles, and Kamikaze Penguins are your victors for tonight's featured match 2-0 over Bidoof.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about how well Zianiel played, finding the moments to go in as this Vayne, and I still stand by that. I think Zianiel played really, really well in this game. But honestly, also, like, as far as that last team fight is concerned, shout out to Mansberg for being patient with the recast on Vex Ultimate just to make sure, okay, I can go back in and kill the Kaisa now. But in general, somewhat of an unspoken hero for this game, at least for me,
Yeah.
is ZZ Dog with this Poppy.
Mhm.
Finding so many good opportunities to just slam a target into the wall, get the stun, and really kick things off for a fight was really critical for the side of Kamikaze Penguins. And honestly, as far as how clean the games looked, I'd say that this one was a bit cleaner than last time.
Mhm.
Just because the start out for the last one just looked so messy before
Yeah.
the Caitlyn took over.
Yeah, and I do want to point out really quickly, you can see it on your screen, but this is kind of what it was talking about, right? Darius did not have a good time in lane, was not super influential in that early game, had that one team fight. Now they became a threat, and then look at it now. Like the highest gold on their team, competing with Vayne, highest damage in the game overall. Like that's kind of the ticking time bomb. You have to be very careful when you play around Darius like that. But when the enemy team has a fed Vayne, you have to spend everything on the Vayne. You kind of ignore the fact that Darius is there, which allows Darius to kind of run through your team. So, if we're gonna talk about like MVPs for this game, right? Like Zioniel has been so good and so influential in a lot of these fights that it's hard for me to say that it isn't Zioniel, just from the amount of damage and the amount of free space that they've been able to work with and how well they navigated their team fights. But man, Berserker has been kind of like hidden MVP of like, hey, I didn't do well in lane, but look at how well I'm doing in these team fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And overall, I will say Kamikaze Penguins. Maybe with the exception of like a few positioning errors in game number one
Mm-hmm.
and somewhat in game number two, they had a very clean series here.
Yeah.
That being said, like there were still moments where things could have gone positively for Bidoof. It comes down to execution. I don't think that. Okay, I will say game two's drafting was a bit like maybe you can run that a bit better because I think you said earlier it felt like they kind of drafted themselves into a corner with what they had opted into.
Right.
But as far as execution goes, like making small mistakes in the early game can turn into things that are hard punished, or maybe like in team fights, overcommitting at the wrong times
Mm-hmm.
um, really puts themselves at a deficit. But overall, decent series.
Yeah. For sure. I definitely agree. Real fun time for sure. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, press that follow button. We've got League of Legends action for you to watch every single week here at Style Esports. And if you're feeling generous, press that subscribe button as well. Helps us keep the lights on here at Style Esports, and continues to give you these great casts that you all love so much. For myself, the entire live broadcast crew, Trutabaga, my co-caster for this evening, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next match. Bye-bye.